This is the E-Commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Pod. We've got another cracking episode lined up for you today with an amazing guest, and I'm sure we're going to have a fantastic conversation. Welcome, Lewis Kinley from Lynk Me. Welcome, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we tried to tee this up. I think you were in El Salvador. You were somewhere. You were off gallivanting around the world, and we tried to do this conversation. I think it was a week or two ago, and the internet was just not up to the task. But we've got a good, solid connection today, and I'm really glad we were able to reschedule this because I think we're going to have a great chat about your tech and about the industry and about where it's headed and AI and lots of cool topics today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're down in Trinidad and Tobago, actually.
Oh, Trinidad and Tobago in that case.
Yeah, it was a really good trip, and somehow I spent a lot of time there in the past and never really had any sickness or issues, and in 2 weeks I caught dengue fever and wound up hanging out in bed for half the trip, so it was quite the trip.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that, but now that you've had it, in theory, you probably have some pretty solid immunity against it now, and you probably never get it again.
Yeah, one can hope, right?
Yeah.
We'll find out if I ever catch another mosquito.
Yes, let's hope that never happens again. But if you're a world traveler, like it sounds like you are, you're always going to be exposed to weird and wonderful things that you don't get exposed to back home.
That's right. Yeah, spent several months in Southeast Asia, and I've been all over the Americas. And this is the first time I've caught any of the strange tropical things. Luck of the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're fortunate that we traveled extensively around Mexico in 2023 by car. And apart from the odd tummy bug here and there, my wife got pretty ill once, oddly, not from street food, but from a McDonald's chicken burger. And she was deathly ill. We thought, okay, this is, of all the places we can see within eye shot, McDonald's looks like it's probably the safest food we can possibly get right now, and it made her the sickest she's been since we moved to Mexico, and she was bedridden for about 3 or 4 days. We think it was something wrong with the chicken. But anyways, you just never know how these things are going to turn out. Usually you'd think, okay, the street food's the stuff that's going to get you, but it's not always the case. Sometimes the street food is the healthiest food you can get.
Yeah, I did pretty well when I was in Mexico for a few months last year. It only really got hit once. Not sure
the old
where
Montezuma's revenge. Listen, we're going to have a good conversation about things other than food and other than travel. And before we dig into what Lynk Me is and what it does and kind of how it came into existence and why, as I look back across your history, your experience set, you come from a software engineering background, you come from a development background, you come from a technical background. So was that kind of the vector that drew you into this industry and sucked you in deep? And was it through those roles that you realized, okay, there's some gaps in the market here that I think I'm uniquely positioned to be able to understand, interpret, and meet the market for? Or was it a case of initially eating your own dog food and then commercializing that? Or what was your path to being where you are today?
Yeah, it really actually started through my co-founder. I've always thought of myself as really a solutions guy. You give me a problem and I will come up with multiple different ways to solve it. And so my co-founder had a problem that she had dealt with years ago now when we actually started the company, and I just thought, wow, we could solve that. And in solving that, we would have a real impact on people's lives. And so my motivation was really more in solving that problem and seeing a place that we could really have a positive impact on communities and small businesses through delivering a useful solution.
Wow. And full transparency, I've never used the Lynk Me platform before, so I'd have to just go with what's on the tin and kind of my understanding of the industry and the understanding of this particular software space. But you bill yourself as you want to revolutionize merchants' data workflows with a comprehensive data intelligence platform. So effectively, it's an analytics AI platform, right? So you call it data intelligence, but really it's business intelligence, it's data and analytics, and it's not necessarily just for e-commerce merchants, but presumably this is something that e-commerce merchants get a ton of value out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really about, it's not just analytics or BI in the sense of Tableau or Power BI, where you better already come with all your data perfectly clean in order to analyze it. We've realized that a lot of business owners you're not just using one platform to do everything to run your business. And the moment that you've got more than one system at play, you end up spending hours and hours digging through Excel trying to reconcile things and make sure that, hey, a customer's name is in the right format or their dates are in the right format, just so that you can actually compare apples to apples. And so we've really built a whole end-to-end solution for folks to bring their data together from all the different systems that they use today and get that all into a clean, harmonized format so that they can really start to see, here's a 360-degree view of a customer or your supply chain or whatever the key things in your business are, so that you can get into the intelligence side of it and start asking questions based on a full view rather than just a few rows in a spreadsheet that you're trying to figure out what's what in different places. So it's really about the cleaning, the unification, and then the intelligence, which you can do a lot more intelligence and analysis once your data is all brought together and harmonized than you can out of 5 different spreadsheets.
No question about that. And in the context of e-commerce and e-commerce merchants, what types of systems are you typically finding yourself needing to integrate with it? Is it the ERPs? Is it the WMSs? Is it the CRMs? Is it Google? Is it Meta? Is it their customer service platforms? Is it their email platforms? What types of integrations are you finding yourself just repetitively over and over again bringing this data together, trying to create a more holistic picture for the merchant of where their business is doing well and maybe where it needs some improvement?
Yeah, so it's typically the ERP, the CRM, and whatever ads platforms or platforms you're using, right? It's one thing to be able to run that campaign out of your CRM, but when the results of that are scattered across a few different places, whether that's your orders in your ERP or your emails or wherever, it's hard to really get a full picture of what campaigns were actually working, what products are really driving your revenue versus just they look like they're moving, but maybe there were some bulk orders or something that skew the stats.
Yeah, makes sense. And do you also find yourself needing to integrate with something like a Gorgeous or a Zendesk or a Freshdesk or anything like that, basically wherever the heart of customer service is, so you start to understand things like number of queries per customer per purchase, what their propensity to discount, maybe you plug into CDP platforms, customer data platforms, to pull in some of those key cohorts of data. Again, looking at return rates, looking at contact rates, looking at how often do they buy something on a discount versus at full price. It's hard to get a full picture of the performance of your store or individual customers or even individual channels unless you're pulling in kind of data from as many sources as you possibly can, and even from your procurement system. If it's not an ERP, even if it's your receipting platform or whatever it might be, you need to know what the COGS of goods is. You need to understand what the unit economics of a sale are across that SKU. There's a lot that goes into this whole concept of a brand truly understanding which products are successful, which products are not successful. And hey, look, at least if you are okay with a product being unsuccessful, because let's say 9 times out of 10 it's bundled with 2 or 3 other items that have really great unit economics, sometimes you will have a loss leader, and that will be intentional. But at least as long as you know it's intentional and it's not just by accident, then at least you can make some strategic business decisions instead of flying blind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really the heart of what most people are looking at with our platform is where do they actually have the best margins, where are they given the biggest discounts, and what products are truly being purchased together, or maybe not in the same order, but is that customer coming back and buying 3 different products over a 6-month span? And if so, what other customers have bought some of those products that they could potentially now find a cohort of possible upsells or cross-sells? And when we bring all the data together, that's the type of analysis that becomes a lot easier to see.
Absolutely. And are you guys also, in addition to being that analytics and BI and data intelligence layer and harmonization and standardization layer, is it also your intention to be looking at attribution or bringing in things like marketing mix modeling or something like that to be able to better understand, okay, cool, if I spend this money over here on this channel from a marketing perspective, then here's the ROI that I'm getting out of this based on the performance of that channel and visitors that come through that channel? Or is it, no, actually, we don't really worry about attribution. That's not really our game. We let other technologies worry about attribution, and we worry about what happens downstream of that, meaning the transactional layer.
Yeah, we're more at the transactional layers. Attribution is really depends on what...
It's a messy business.
Extremely. And there's so much tracking of all the different pieces of that there's some people that have already solved attribution or done pretty well with that, and it's such a complex space that we didn't want to play there. We've really said, hey, if we provide a great suite of tools for business owners or managers to be able to just get in and analyze their data holistically, then they can start to ask the questions that get into which marketing mix is working or which things are really driving their ROI. And we're not the marketing gurus, so we're not going to tell you what questions you should be asking. We have some suggestions and we can definitely guide you, and the platform will guide you, but it's really on you to be asking the questions that are most relevant to your situation.
And when you looked out, when you started this whole thing many years ago now, because you're not a new company, you've been doing this for over 6.5 years now. So this is not your first rodeo with data, and you've worked for Fortune 500s previously, etc. This is not your first rodeo with data, analytics, insights, and building tools around this function. This is not your first rodeo by any stretch of the imagination. But when you looked out there across the landscape of technologies that are in market today, you probably got, even if you just log into the Shopify app store alone and you do a search for insights or analytics or anything like that, there's 20 reasonably well-known platforms, BI platforms that pop up that can help merchants to better understand what it is that they're doing and what it is that's actually successful. There's Store Hero, there's Clar, there's Funalytics, and I've featured probably 10 of those at some point or another on the podcast. So when you looked out there, what was it in terms of gaps in the marketplace that you said, sure, there's some pretty decent platforms out there, and some are expensive, some are maybe not so expensive, some are maybe e-com specific, some maybe aren't, some are omni-channel, some maybe are designed for e-commerce merchants, some are maybe designed for generic businesses. What was it when you looked out there that you said, I think we can do this better? I think there's some gaps. I think there's some nails still sticking up that we can hit with our unique hammer.
Yeah. We started out really serving in the financial services space. So we had, in a past iteration of our platform, we had worked with quite a few financial services companies around Central America and the Caribbean, and we started coming into the U.S. market and seeing that a lot of the same problems existed, but we were too focused on a specific expression of that problem. Before, we had really focused on just the customer acquisition and customer onboarding and kind of data gathering there. And what we realized and what made us zoom out and pivot to become a data platform was when we started looking at industries outside of financial services and seeing that, hey, this problem is ubiquitous. And it's really that every company that's been around for more than 6 months, and even some brand new ones, have so many different data sources that they're working with to drive their business that don't all integrate with Zapier. You can't just go plug them all together. And even if you could, it requires a level of technical skill and capacity that a lot of companies just don't have in-house. You've started a business to build or sell a product. You're great at marketing. You're great at the whole supply chain to get your products to market. You're not a data expert. You're not a tech expert. And so what we saw is a lot of companies were just drowning in data. They've got so much of it that it's actually become a liability instead of an asset. And so we just looked at what really needed to be in place for a company that's done well enough to generate a lot of data to actually now turn that into an asset that they can use to chart their path forward, find those revenue opportunities and really grow their revenue rather than spend all day in spreadsheets just trying to find a needle in a haystack. And so we pulled together the pieces that we had seen work really well for very specific problems in the financial services space. You know what? This is actually a general purpose tool that we've mislabeled as a tool for financial services. And so if we just open our eyes a little bit, there's a huge market out there that beyond just any one industry. And by delivering a more general purpose tool that's really easy for non-technical people to use, we can help a lot of really creative, passionate small business owners actually grow and transform their businesses. And so that's really where we saw the opportunity, kind of simplifying a lot of that process that, yeah, there are great solutions out there for most of the pieces of what we do. Very few of them have really put all the pieces together into a comprehensive solution that's actually easy for somebody to use without some background in IT.
Data science or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, or data analysis at the very least, right? And it seems like data engineers, data analysts, data scientists, it seems like all those sort of three role types within a business, it feels like when brands go to market to find these types of resources, they're rare as hen's teeth, right? And it feels like most of these people have been gobbled up by the banks, the insurance companies, the Metas of the world, the Googles of the world, the Apples of the world. It feels like they've been gobbled up by the biggest tech companies in the world to help run their data and analytics internally and build out their practices, and even the analytics layer that sits atop their technologies and even sits across their ad platforms, for example. You need some serious experts in data to be able to build out these ad platforms. And the Amazon ad platform now, which is number 3 in America behind Google and Meta, you have these massive global organizations just sucking up every data science resource they can get their hands on, and it seems like at almost any price to a degree. And it feels like democratizing that for small businesses is bloody hard to do. If these people are getting paid $250, $350, $450 and more a year, these small businesses, they just don't have access to this type of resource.
Yeah, and even if they had access to it, one of the things I've seen throughout my career, both as an employee and as an advisor, I've on the boards of a couple other companies and have a lot of friends that have done startups, and every time a non-technical person tries to staff up a technical org without a technical co-founder, they flounder because there's some element of understanding the technology you need in order to effectively manage a data scientist, an engineer, a data engineer. And if you don't have it, all people are lazy, right? Objects at rest will remain at rest.
Yes.
And when you hire somebody like that, even if you have the best intentions and the highest motivated person, eventually you're going to get to a point where they're not sure what to do and you're not sure how to guide them. And then things are going to grind to a halt. And you're just going to be burning cash, getting no results. And I've seen it too many times. And so we just said, hey, look, for a tiny fraction of what you could spend on a single data scientist, we can basically provide you the capacity of a whole team to do that stuff without having to manage a person, without having to manage somebody that could be a great team member or they could be a complete dud. And you're going to show up, you're going to get great support. We really take pride in partnering with the companies we work with to make sure that when they come on board, not only do they know how to use everything and get the maximum value out of what they're paying for, if they have questions or things don't quite plug in the way they expected, we're going to make sure it does, because we know that by continuing to expand what we offer or the things that we can plug into and solve, that opens us up to more people. And so it's really a win-win, right? And we really want to go above and beyond for the folks that choose to work with us and make sure that you're getting 10, 20, 100 times more value out of what you're paying every month than you would out of trying to hire somebody.
Wow, yeah. It sounds like what your goal was is, hey, let's democratize this thing. Let's make it accessible to almost anyone. Maybe not absolutely anyone, but let's make it as accessible to as wide of an audience as we can realistically within the confines of building a product that's actually meaningful, brings meaningful insights, and at the end of the day, the merchant presumably needs to have at least a sufficient amount of data. They need to be, I don't know, maybe it's, let's just say hypothetically, it's $1 million a year in GMV or something like that, or maybe it's 500,000 GMV a year or something like that, so that they have a large enough cohort of data. Maybe not the smallest startup on Shopify is a good candidate for your platform, but they need to have enough data coming in from enough sources and enough channels and enough quantum to be able to run analytics across that data set. And if they don't, then maybe they just need to grow a little bit further, and maybe they're still a popcorn kernel and they need to pop before they're ready for your platform. But if we look across the cohort of your customers today that are e-commerce businesses and brands, what percentage of them would be B2C, D2C, and what percentage of them would be B2B in your experience? And the reason I ask this question is because as I've continued to narrow down and focus my consulting on the B2B world, the B2B world is a totally different beast to the B2C and D2C world. And especially when it comes down to pricing, profitability, data modeling, forecasting, etc., the data sets are immensely larger typically, because now you've oftentimes got one price list per customer, you've got one catalog per customer, and so instead of the price being an attribute of the product, it's an attribute of the customer now. And typically, in the B2B world, the data cohorts and the data quantum and the data complexity are significantly higher, not only on the product side, but also on the customer side. So instead of having one customer with a unique ID in the B2C world, now you've got an account that's taking certain behaviors. And you might have one customer account in the B2B world might have 5 buyers or 5 users within that account taking different behaviors, and understanding what the nuances of those behaviors within the account are is something totally foreign to the B2C and D2C world. First of all, do you work with B2B brands very often? And 2, how do you deal with that extra complexity in the B2B world?
Yeah, we've mainly worked with B2C and D2C brands and companies. We typically see those with multiple product lines or even multiple brands that they represent as the ones that are really getting the most value out of what we're doing, because where they may have different shops even for each of those brands.
Like different storefronts, it's a multi-brand storefronts.
Yeah, exactly. And so being able to pull the data from each storefront, from each different thing, and start to see the cohorts and start to see the opportunities there is really where they're getting the most value. And they're usually the ones that have enough data for it to make sense. And they've grown to a certain point that now they really need to get into their analytics capability, and they've gotten through the easy growth of just marketing different products and different product lines, but now they're really looking for how do they maximize the customer bases they've already built.
Right.
I think there's also an element of data security, data privacy that we have really focused on, where a lot of folks, when they hear AI, they just think, oh, we're going to send everything to ChatGPT. And I'm a privacy nerd myself, and so we've really built this. First off, we don't send anything to ChatGPT. And second, the data that we do work with, almost none of it ever goes to any kind of an AI. We really use the AI to help run some of the analysis or figure out what analysis needs to be done. We have a massive suite of different analysis tools that we've built up over time and that we can plug into that are really the things that do the analysis in the background without sending anything to AI, so that ultimately when your data comes to our platform, it's staying in a nice, private, unaccessible, not being shared with the world box. Yeah. It's a walled garden instead of an open atrium that's just feeding the AI models further.
And when a customer comes to you for the first time, and let's say you get plugged in, you get integrated in with their ERP, maybe it's NetSuite, maybe it's D365, whatever it is, maybe it's SAP, you get integrated with that, maybe you get integrated with a WMS to pull in some custom data there. Maybe you get plugged into their CRM, whatever that might be. Maybe you get plugged into their customer service platform, and maybe you get plugged into their Meta account and their Google Ads account, for example. what is typically the first 1, 2, 3 steps after you first get integrated and you pull down maybe, I don't know, 12 months worth of historical data? You probably don't need to pull down more than 12 months of historical data because the further you go back, the less relevant it becomes. And are you starting to calculate things like RFM? Are you starting to, what types of analysis are the first steps that you take to really start to surface something where the brand goes, oh, never knew that before? Because you guys aren't trying to be a CDP. You're not pitching yourself as a CDP, so you're not trying to get down to that individual customer level and saying, market to this customer this way. You're saying, in aggregate, this is how the business is performing. This is how these SKUs are performing. These are probably some levers you could pull to make the business perform better. Here are some ideas. Here are some insights that maybe you wouldn't recognize because it's hard to crunch numbers at scale in the human brain. And so short of trying to do all this in using formulas in Excel, here's some default reports. Here's some default formulas we bring to the table that we think bring the fastest insights, the fastest actionable insights to your business. What are the types of things that you typically surface?
Yeah, so the top two are definitely customer cohorts and product cohorts. So really trying to see what products are actually being bought by in groups or over time by the same customers, and similarly, what customers, hey, you've got 1,000 customers that all bought the same 3 products. Half of those customers actually bought 3 other products too. So why didn't the other half of the customers buy all the same products? And it's things like that people are trying to find the cohorts of customers that have some overlapping product purchases that they can now say, oh my God, we've already got this list of engaged customers. They're going to cost almost nothing to market to. And that's it, right? They want to see really where's their immediate opportunity to get some new sales and some new business out of their existing customer base. Because I think everybody understands it's much easier to sell to an existing customer than go find a new one. And so it's really about trying to maximize their existing customer base. And then the third one is really looking into the discounts that they're giving on products and trying to understand from their CRM or from their support platforms, where are they often having to give discounts either on products that were defective, that they don't really see that because it's just trapped in all their support data. But it's really trying to understand what products are actually costing them money. Really, when you look at it in ERP, it looks like, wow, great, we sold 1,000 and this was the margin. But when you go back and look and see, oh, we actually had to give refunds on 1/3 of those or give discount vouchers for their next purchase on some of those that actually ended up costing us money. Those are the things that I'd say that's the third thing that people are typically looking at is, where are the hidden cost centers that they're not really seeing today.
So what is our net margin at SKU level? What are our net unit economics at SKU level that we maybe didn't join those dots together? So it looks on the surface like we did really well out of this product, but actually in hindsight we didn't do that well out of this product. Or I'm guessing that, do you then integrate with something like a Klaviyo or some other marketing automation platforms to create these custom segments inside the marketing automation platform to say, okay, here's a very valuable cohort that we think if we can identify all the people that bought these 3 SKUs but did not buy these additional three SKUs, that looks like there's a high propensity to bundle these together by a significant population of our customers. Now we can dynamically create a mirror of that segment inside of our marketing automation platform. And then we can be really targeted about, instead of just doing this batch and blast type of marketing or this batch and blast type of discounting, we can be very surgical about creating these segments inside of our marketing automation platform, be very targeted in not only the messaging we send them, but the types of stimulation or discount campaigns that we're running against those cohorts, or creating even maybe a custom bundle of those 3 SKUs that this cohort did not buy and giving them 10% off if they buy the complete bundle or something like that. It feels like this is really rich, valuable cohort data that needs to be actionable inside of some sort of marketing automation platform to then be able to take an action that could lead to more sales.
Yeah, we have really avoided pushing data out. We do have, obviously you can export and download, and where we've stopped today because there's so many systems that we could try to push data to. And if you've ever used Zapier, you're well aware of how hard it is to actually get all of the properties and things to map perfectly every time. So we've stopped short of pushing those things out. We'll say, hey, look, here are the results of all this analysis. Here's a list of all the customer IDs or emails from your data that look like a good cohort, but how you want to use that data from there is really up to you. There are some things we've looked at integrating with, but yeah, we haven't gone down the road of pushing those back out to another market automation platform. That is a good idea. We're going to have to put that one in the backlog as a future feature.
Yeah, I guess it is relatively straightforward then if they see a cohort there that you've built out, you've said, look, on average, this large cohort of say 1,000 customers typically buys these three SKUs together, and we know what those SKU numbers are, but they haven't bought these other three SKUs, which are also very popular amongst a similar cohort, then it's pretty easy then to effectively copy and paste that into a marketing automation platform and say, okay, create me a dynamic segment, all the customers that have bought these three but have not bought these three SKUs, cool. Now I'm going to create a campaign that's auto going to run, so everybody that falls into that dynamic segment and falls out of the dynamic segment, if they fall out of the dynamic segment, I'm not going to email them. If they fall into the dynamic segment, it's going to trigger off an email to them with a special bit of content and information. Plus, it's perhaps going to have some sort of a discount or some sort of bundle or some sort of a combo, some sort of a promotion that then stimulates them to hopefully reconsider us for another purchase. And so it feels like it's going to be relatively easy to manually, sure, it'd be nice if it was 100% dynamic, because potentially you're creating hundreds of cohorts that potentially would require action like this. So even if it only took you 2 minutes or 3 minutes per cohort to create this custom campaign for, it's still, if you're creating hundreds of these cohorts, there's going to be a little bit of manual effort there, and of course be able to dynamically create that in something like Klaviyo would be amazing. But it does feel like at least the most important cohorts, the ones that have the most potential, it might only be 10, it might only be 20 at a time that have this real potential within them that you've identified, then it feels like, hey, we can go and create those manual campaigns, and we can create custom messaging, and we can do all the things we need to do to hopefully get these customers to transact with us again.
Yeah, and I think we've really focused on getting to the point of kind of live analytics. So once you've set up those questions that are driving your answers, the things that you want to use or see to understand your business, once you set those up, hey, you can have it run every day if you want and alert you, hey, there were 50 new people that matched this question you had or that fell into this cohort. And I guess we're not too far from that last step of being able to push it out. It's just with so many different systems to plug into, we really haven't even chosen a place to start, because across different industries, there are so many that people have asked about. We've got a running list, and that hasn't been our biggest value add yet. And so we just said, you know what, let's make sure that we're driving the massive value on getting all that data together and being analyzed or analyzable. And what you want to do with that once you've understood it, that's up to you. But I guess as we have a bit more time and more folks coming on asking for some of the same integrations, then we've got some pretty cool pieces of the platform built up that automatically build those integrations. So as new systems come up, we're really trying to cut down on the time it takes to get new things added for folks, so that it can be more of a self-building platform, and we can let the AI, really help us grow it that way, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I guess the other approach is to simply integrate, at least in terms of first cabs off the rank, integrate with 3 or 4 iPaaS platforms that are common in the e-commerce ecosystem, and then that opens up a whole bunch of hundreds of downstream integrations from there. If you're running a Celigo, or you're running a Patchworks, or you're running a MuleSoft, or you're running a Zapier, or whatever it might be, if the reality is if you integrate with at least the iPaaS as an endpoint on the iPaaS, then anything they integrate to downstream, you're opened up automatically to being able to integrate to those other downstream systems. So that's another approach I see a lot of these SaaS platforms take to get them off to the races quicker and easier than these individual point level integrations.
Yeah, definitely. Those Zapier's on the roadmap, Make is on the roadmap. They're coming.
Love Make. I use Make in my own business. Absolutely love it. It's great. Their visual workflow builder, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and there's some of those things that why would we even try to compete? There's no sense.
Yeah.
It's
You
such
don't
a
need
great
to recreate the
platform.
wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So just trying to focus on our special little piece of it and fit into the ecosystem as a useful piece rather than a redundant piece.
Totally. And if we look out over the next 12, 18, 24 months, is there anything your customers, especially your e-com customers, are asking you for today that you don't do? Or is there any gaps in the market you've identified, say, over the last 6 months that you go, cool, here's another area where we can add some value that I don't see anybody else doing. And with our unique set of data and the unique way we analyze it, here's some things, there's some additional value we think we can bring to the table pretty soon.
Yeah, there's some things around simulations and really being able to test different scenarios or test different things, back test that against historical data to say, hey, if we ran a campaign like this based on what we've seen from our other campaigns, what's likely to happen? And I think that the scenario testing and some of the deeper analysis, the mixed media modeling, things like that, we're working on how to make that really more generalizable. And so I think those are two of the big ones. And the third actually is the push integrations to actually be able to push data out. And I'd say that's somewhere around the end of the year we should be pushing that one out. No pun intended there. But right now we're really focused on delivering for a couple pretty large clients, and then we'll be back on the feature roadmap from there.
Love it. That's the great thing about having a SaaS platform is that if you've got a whale that requires a piece of functionality that looks like pretty good and it looks like it's going to be pretty applicable to just about every other one of your customers, hey, the beauty is you roll that out for one, you roll it out for all. So that's the benefit of being a SaaS platform, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an exciting time to be in the market, and every time I look around, I see someone that looks like a new competitor, and then I dig a little bit deeper and I say, nope, they're really just wrapping ChatGPT, and that's kind of it. And so I've stopped worrying so much about the competition and just said, you know what, as long as we stay focused on what we're doing and people are seeing value from it and understanding how that's different from just using ChatGPT or just using a thin wrapper on it, then we'll be all right.
Love it. And how do you guys make your money? You're a SaaS platform. Do you have tiers? Do you have plans? Is it based on the endpoint count that you connect to? Is it based on the number of records you have to crunch? There's lots of different ways that SaaS companies charge for their platform, but what's your go-to-market model from a pricing perspective?
Yeah, so we've tried to keep it as simple as possible. It's really 3 tiers, small, medium, and large, and it's all based on the volume of data and data sources. If you've got 15 different systems, you might get bumped up into the middle category. If you're really only working with 2 or 3 data sources as the core, most fundamental things, you're probably going to be in the small until you're pushing gigabytes of data every month. And that would be quite a few transactions you'd have to be doing to get there. That's really for when folks are doing their historical things or, starting to pull in the data enrichment side of it and pulling external data that's not necessarily about their customers, but could help them understand some opportunities in the market. So we've tried to keep it as simple as possible so that everybody pretty much starts out in the small, and as you need more and as you're getting more value from it, you start to pay more.
Yeah, look, it's a consumption-based model, which makes absolute sense. At the end of the day, you got to deliver the infrastructure, you got to deliver the functionality, the enhancements, the support over time, the white glove onboarding, etc. So there's a cost to delivering the service to your customers. So it makes sense to tier it in some form of a way that's tied to some level of consumption or growth. So that makes sense. And I see you've got micro all the way to large. So you got plans all the way from $250 a month to $20,000 a month, and your small plan is $850 a month. So if that's the most common, then that's probably around about what the average merchant would expect to pay, is that $850 a month, which is to not have to hire a data scientist. You're going to be paying a whole lot more than $850 a month for a data scientist, maybe a data analyst and a data engineer. If you've got one or more of those resources inside your business, you're going to be paying a heck of a lot more than $850 a month to get all of that capability inside the business. And then again, you're going to still have to manage them. You're still going to have to guide them. You're still going to have to tell them what the goals are, and you're still going to have to tell them ultimately what insights you want for them to go out and get those insights. And so it feels like a little bit of a no-brainer, which is obviously where you want to be in the market, right? You want it to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really it. Folks are using it as if they were talking to a data analyst and getting some of the same answers, except it's in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost. So it's really been fun to see and to see some of the results, and excited to see more of it.
Love it, love it. And if people want to get a hold of you, I'll drop your LinkedIn link and I'll drop the Lynk Me link in the show notes, so it'll be really easy for people to click on and find you. But other than those two places, how do you like people to get a hold of you and have a chat about Lynk Me or about data analysis for e-commerce or anything related to basically optimizing your business for better success?
Wow, yeah, there's actually the secondary call to action on our website is just to schedule a call, and that's
easy.
Easy. It's really the best way. You're going to get right on my calendar or somebody on the team's calendar, but if you really want to chat with me, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, it says connect with an expert here, and then there's also the free trial. So if people want to try it out for free, and they can click on that button and they can get signed up and they're off to the races.
That's it, yeah. Tried to make it as easy as possible.
Easy as falling off a log. I absolutely love it. Now, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And look, it sounds like you're doing some really cool stuff over there at Lynk Me. Now, as we come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script, hand the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. So, Mr. Lewis Kinley from Lynk Me, what is your question for me today?
Well, Jason, if I had to ask you anything, I'm really curious, what is the most painful data challenge you've had in your consulting time here in the last year or two? What have you really just pulled your hair out with?
The problem that I run into with B2B brands most often, and it's almost every single time, is product data not being ready for digital channels. So maybe they've got some digital catalogs, maybe they've got some PDFs, maybe they've got some internal organizational knowledge within the business, some tribal knowledge within the business, within the sales team, maybe within customer service, etc. But oftentimes they've got a scattered product data. They've got it over network drives. They've got it in local machines on a sales rep's own hard drive. They've got color swatches. They've got spec sheets. They've got images. They've got videos. They've got all these different pieces of collateral around products, but it's not centralized in any meaningful way outside of their ERP. And oftentimes in their ERP, the only base data they have is maybe a product name, a product price, and maybe price list, and then inventory count, and that's often and maybe a short description of one sentence of what the product is, because ERPs typically are not designed to be PIM systems. They're not designed to be PLM systems. They're not designed to be e-commerce platforms, and as a result of that, they're not really designed to house all this rich, complex product data, assets, and collateral that you need to be able to sell online today. And these are the challenges, not having consistency between parent and child products where it's a multivariant product, for example. So sometimes they'll have all the variants listed as individual items, and sometimes they'll have a relationship between the parent and child product, depending on the category of products and depending on the supplier of the products. And usually when I go in, one of the first things we have to do is we have to take a really hard look at their product data. We have to rationalize it, we have to cleanse it, we have to harmonize it, we have to perhaps go out and use, there's several different vendors that can go out and they can scrape suppliers' websites for product data to enrich it better and standardize it. So that's probably the single biggest challenge that I run into with almost every single engagement, is either a complete lack of product data or a complete disorganization of that product data and it being scattered across multiple systems and multiple knowledge bases within the business. And we really have to get that centralized. We have to bring it into some level of consistency. We have to bring categorization into some level of consistency. We have to bring some level of structured data to it so that we can have things like faceted filtered navigation on the front end of the website. And so things like search engines and AI-powered technology can actually work. If you've got no data, those systems don't work. And it's that simple. Yeah, data challenges, product data challenges, then closely followed by customer data challenges and inconsistency across their customer data and structuring, the structure of data. So a lot of the work I do with customers is data analysis and data engineering and data design, and just helping them bring some sort of consistency across their data model. Because as you well know, those fancy search, merge, personalization, BI, AI tools, none of them work well without data. And so we got to have really good data. It's garbage in, garbage out. So they got to have some good, solid, consistent data before all these amazing tools and technologies have a shot at working well.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. It'd be really interesting to sit down and actually see one of those problems, see what you're seeing with that side of the problem on the actually getting an e-com set up.
Yes.
Because most of the people we deal with, they're already set up.
Yeah. You're dealing in a lucky space then. And the truth is that makes sense, because if you're dealing primarily with B2C and D2C merchants, they already understand the importance of merchandising. They already understand the importance of quality product data. They understand the importance of really good images and videos and descriptions and structured attributes and all those things. They get that. They know that they cannot merchandise their product well if they have poor product data. Whereas in the B2B world, because oftentimes they're new to e-commerce, this is a whole new skill set that they're having to learn.
And that's where you come in.
Hopefully, yes. That's where I try to come in and definitely lend a hand. Listen, Louis, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned a ton. Can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. Have a great day. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.